Get to know the grid for the 2026 Formula One season now. Hello Risaka Motor friend, welcome to another video. I'm Matthias Pucci. Let's meet the group. For the new controversial Formula One regulations, review each team in Constructors' Championship order. To make things easier for us here then, without further ado, let's give ratings to each pair, starting with Cadillac, the new Formula One team, the 11th Formula One team, which arrives with an experienced duo. A duo that is well known to the public, which is Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. Two race-winning drivers, two drivers known for being good, for helping their teams score points. And they are two veterans who, in my opinion, have already given what they had to give, but who are back on the grid. After all, for Cadillac, it makes sense to have experienced drivers to help with the development of the team and the car. Both Perez and Bottas have raced for championship-winning teams, so they know how the daily routine works in a team that wins, in a team that gets results. And that, for Cadillac, is very good to understand how this Formula One mentality works. I hope these drivers can deliver to Cadillac what they expect. But I must say, it's a pair, in my opinion. A score of 6, as I think both are past their prime. They no longer perform as before, so they can add technical value, but not in terms of speed. I believe they'll fall short. Of course, I hope they deliver results, but I don't think it's going to be anything special. Alpine keeps its duo Gasly and Franco Colapinto with a pair made up of an experienced race-winning driver, which is Gasly. But he's nothing exceptional. At the beginning of his career, he had some real potential, but he never reached that potential, and Franco Colapinto survived the guillotine that was hanging over his neck. Even during season 25, it's not guaranteed that Colapinto will finish 26 in the Alpine seat. But he's a driver with real potential. He could be a midfield driver, part of the pack for the coming years in Formula One. And I would say it's also a pair that deserves a 6 precisely because there's a good driver, which is Gasly, and a driver who is still becoming one. A big question mark, which is Colapinto, since he has been very inconsistent. In his brief stint with Williams and his brief stint with Alpine, in 2025, we will have Sauber turning into Audi for 2026. But the lineup is exactly the same. The very experienced Nico Hülkenberg, who's been in Formula One since 2010, and the Brazilian who just finished his first season now in 2025 in Formula One. Gabriel Bortoleto Hülkenberg is a strong driver, still delivering impressive performances, and earned his first podium in 2025. Bortoleto is a promising driver with junior titles managed by Fernando Alonso and watched by Formula One. So he is a driver who really does have a lot of potential and also had some very good performances, even though he fluctuated at one point or another during the season. But for a rookie, for a newcomer, he did very well. In my opinion, it's a pair that deserves a 7 because Gabriel Bortoleto is still a developing driver with little Formula One experience, and Nico Hülkenberg, even though he's still showing some good performances, is no longer in his Audi. But since Audi already has an established structure at Sauber, it is much more prepared than Cadillac, for example. For them, keeping this pair makes sense, and I think it's good. A 7 is a good pair, not bad at all. I like Audi's pair and I expect some good results from them. Now let's move on to the other American team, which is Haas. Haas is also keeping their pair of drivers, with Oliver Baumann, who is a young driver that performed very well. In 2025, he went head-to-head with Ocon in qualifying, and in the race, Oliver Baumann really did very well. On the other side, Esteban Ocon, also experienced, is in the same situation as Gasly. He showed more potential when he entered Formula One, but never fulfilled it. Today, he's a good midfield driver. So it's a pair that I also see as a 7 out of 10 because Ocon is a good driver and Baumann has very high potential. It's a setup similar to Audi, a good pair for Haas to fight in that midfield. Aston Martin, which has heavily invested in Formula One lately, is a key team to watch for 2026. They have everything top-notch, invested around €1 billion. Adrian Newey is focused on the 2026 car and the lineup has stayed the same since 2023. Fernando Alonso, a two-time world champion, still delivers strong performances despite not being at his peak. And Lance Stroll, who's a good driver. People always criticize Stroll, but he's a good driver. He fluctuates a lot, for sure, in qualifying, so he's very weak there. But in races, he has more solid performances. It's a duo for me as well. I'd rate it a 7 since Alonso, a 2-time world champ, is still good, though past his peak. But Stroll brings that score down a bit. It could be higher. For a midfield team, it's a good duo. Now, if Aston Martin's goal is to fight for championships, they'll definitely have to rethink this duo. And I'm not just talking about Stroll, I'm even talking about Alonso, because it's unlikely that Alonso will keep up this level in the coming years. He's already been declining for some time, even if slowly, but yes, that decline should continue. So, a score of 7. Red Bull's sister team, Racing Bulls, why change it? It should have stayed Toro Rosso. Toro Rosso was always my favorite. They mistakenly changed the name to Racing Bulls. It comes with a change. This is the first team we're going to talk about here that actually has a change in its lineup. Liam Lawson, who was demoted from Red Bull in 2025, remains with the team. He's a good driver with decent potential, but nothing special, especially compared to the other young drivers. Alongside him is a top prospect, a promising prodigy from Red Bull's junior program. The guy Red Bull is betting on to be the new one. Verstappen, which is Lindblad, comes from winning titles in the junior categories, impressive performances, victories. He's already tested for the main team, by the way, and now joins Racing Bulls. To complete this lineup, which I'll also give a 7, but with high expectations for Lindblad. It could become a 7, 5, or 8 duo depending on what these two drivers do throughout the season. At first, I'll stick with 7.5 because Lawson hasn't shown anything spectacular yet, and Lindblad is a rookie with very high expectations. So 7 is just right here. Since the team's main job is training drivers for Red Bull, a 7 is actually quite good given this situation. The Williams duo remains unchanged for 2025, and I really like this pair, as I've said before. Alexander Albon is a very good driver, very consistent, a driver who delivers results, but he can't lead a team. Because to lead a team that wants to grow, a team that has a medium and long-term plan to win titles again, like what happened with McLaren, you need a stronger, more natural leader, and that's Carlos Sainz, who I believe is world champion material. He's a great driver, even though he may not be as fast in pure speed as some of the other young drivers we have on the grid. But it's a very, very, very good pair. If you consider the midfield, it's possibly the strongest pair in the midfield. And I easily give an 8 to this Williams pair. I really like this duo, and I believe they have a lot of potential to deliver in 2025. Both experienced ups and downs, Carlos Sainz while adapting and Alexander Albon later. The second half had no good moments and some bad luck, but I still really like this pair. An 8 out of 10, remembering Carlos Sainz is a race winner. We've reached Ferrari, the legendary team that hasn't won since 2008 and will keep the same driver lineup in 2025. With great talent, which is Charles Leclerc, a driver who is world champion material, who needs to have a car up to his level at some point in his career. He's been maturing. Race winner and very fast in qualifying. On the other side is 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton, Formula One's greatest winner, who had a tough first year at Ferrari, the worst season of his career, and he's also already at an advanced age. He's no longer at his peak. People have made that point since 2020 when he won his 7th title, but he wants to bounce back after a poor season. And actually, it's a set of regulations that he didn't adapt to very well. He plans a 2026 comeback targeting a title to break Ferrari's drought. With Lewis Hamilton, it's a strong duo. I'd rate it a 9, not a 10, because Leclerc hasn't won a world championship yet or proven himself in a title fight. Meanwhile, Hamilton is on a decline, so I can't give it a 10, but it's a 9. Honestly, Ferrari's duo might be the strongest on paper. Red Bull, which competed for the 2025 drivers' title with Max Verstappen, has added a new member to its lineup. Verstappen, a 4-time champion, took the title fight to the final race of the 2025 season. He stays with the team despite all the rumors that he might leave for 2027, but he remains with the team. He is definitely the team's top asset and best driver, someone every team wants. He needs no introduction. He's the guy who's reaching his peak now, and even before his peak, he's already won 4 titles, so what more can he do, right? On his side, there's a Red Bull prospect who doesn't have Lindblad's prodigy label. But Hajar, who had a good season with Racing Bulls, is moving up to the main team. He should get a more manageable car, easier to drive, since that's the idea of Lohan Mac, the team principal for 2026. So there's a certain level of expectation around Hajar. It's a duo that I'll rate as 8.5 because Verstappen is up there, deserves a 10, and Hajar is still an unknown. He has potential and had a good 2025. So, not to give a low score since he had a good season and there is potential, but also not to give a high score since we haven't seen him fulfill that potential yet. I'll go with an 8.5, which I think is a good score. Maybe I could even give it an 8 here. You tell me if your opinion is that this Red Bull duo deserves more like an 8. But I'll go with an 8.5, and I think that's a good score. Mercedes wants to get back on track. In fact, at a time when we still don't have the 2026 cars on the track, it's considered the big favorite for the new regulations. It retains its 2025 drivers. George Russell showed significant growth during the 2025 season, drove impressively, and often carried Mercedes. He's a race winner, a consistent driver, a reliable driver, a driver with world champion material. And next to him is the prodigy, also with the prodigy label, Kimi Antonelli, who had some flashes in 2025 but was quite inconsistent. Also, this is normal for a rookie. Like Leclerc, Russell still needs to prove himself in a title fight, but he has what it takes to be a world champion. And next to him you have an Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who's a prodigy, kind of like Lindblad, for example. I'm also gonna give this pair an 8.5, but I admit that this score could even be a 9. Because Antonelli is more of a reality and has more potential than Radier, in my opinion. As I said, George Russell is a great driver, so it's an 8.5 pair. It's good for Mercedes, a great score. I expect a lot from them in 2026. Last but not least, we have the 2025 Constructors and Drivers Champion McLaren keeping their lineup. Also with the World Champion Lando Norris, what a driver, World Champion material, who now reaches this World Champion status, so now Norris has to defend the title. He has already met expectations by winning a title, so he's in his best phase. He had a strong second half of 2025. Everyone knows that he is extremely fast, and next to him you have a driver who is considered a prodigy. Now in his third Formula 1 season, he fought for the title, who may have learned some lessons in that title fight, which is Oscar Piastri. It's a very strong duo, a pair of drivers who still have many years ahead of them. Both of them are still going to reach their peak. I'll give a 9.5, but Matthias, you gave Ferrari a 9, and they're the stronger duo on paper. But right there, we're discussing a non-champion driver, a declining 7-time champion, and here a world champion, going into his prime, and a prodigy who's also reaching his prime. So, in my opinion, a 9.5 is pretty good. For McLaren, if you're talking about the pair that's closest to reaching their full potential on the grid today, it's definitely the McLaren duo. So that's the 2026 group. We'll have 11 teams, and it's been a long time since we've had more than 10 teams, which is pretty cool. Share your opinion and rank each pair in the comments. What score would you give them? Let me know. Subscribe, enable notifications, and visit our partners. Paddock BR has a Christmas promotion. You use the coupon Resica to get free shipping, and there's a 30% discount on hoodies. Also, when you buy 3 items, you get a 4th one for free. In this case, a free t-shirt. So check out the link in the description. There's Evo Design with products like this fantastic helmet here, which you can get from any rider you want. There are nozzles, cockpits, steering wheels, the Resica coupon, and Amorim Global for international legal assistance. If you need visas, naturalizations, and so on. Instant Gaming has games and gift cards for you. Details in the description. Don't miss out. Thanks and see you.